Okay, so I give challenges honestly so that it makes you stop and think about the code and see how well you're translating and see how well you can kind of expand your knowledge even without somebody showing you, right? So again, if you didn't get working code there, make sure you document. And even if you did document it, right? Either way to say kind of how you approached it. So in this case, what I was asking is that we have this start function here. We know if we pass it these two values, right? So this is honestly all you'd have to do is you could say start and pass it, not first name, although we could use that, right? House members, comma, house size. Ooh, I wrote that wrong. I bet somebody already found that one. Would that work? Right? The question is, will that work? Well, let's go see, and then let's think about how we would need to change anything if we do. Okay, so we need to talk about cleaning up the form as well, and we can do that, right? So, because these are all required, I do have to put something in there. And let's say I put this in there, and let's say I put, for now, right, this in there. So here's what I would do, is I'd come over here, I'd move my breakpoint to here, and again, this code will not, even though I have a breakpoint, I wouldn't reload, I'd hit submit, and so I can see I have house size is small, and I have house members of 3, but it's a string. And now I'm passing those string values, and you might immediately think it wouldn't work. But did you try? So let's try. So now we're passing in, right? So we're going to call the first one, passing in that value that we are calling house members. Again, it's 3. So will it, right? So when it gets to 3, what will it do? Right? Because why? Because it's a string, right? So in this case, it's going to come back. It's going to return, but what it's going to return is 0. So how do we fix that? There's a couple of ways. One really easy way is do a parse int. Okay? Parse an integer. So because we have there's many ways to do this, but we're just going to call parse int. So let's do that. And by the way, I didn't even go through apartment, so let's actually, or house size, let's actually just go ahead and do that one. Okay, now on the house size, right, does it work? Oh, it worked. Okay, boom, right there. House size returns 4. Good, right? Good. So now, good. That one worked. But we'll talk about why this one is not a great idea. Okay. So let's come back here and fix this. So the only thing we'd have to do really here on members of the house is parse int. Okay, for an integer. I believe that's all we'd need to do. Okay. Let's run it again. Okay. This time. Now, even before we run it, right, we can see that. So if we did type of, okay, house members, we could see its number. And actually, we could also use new number as well. It's just another way to do it. But this is kind of pretty common that you see here. And so now, when we run, right, now we should get, when it hits 2, boom, drops into 23, like we would have expected, returns it, returns that number, and now we have points for that, which is awesome. Okay, this still works. Okay, now what's now that we have that though, what's missing? Right? What's missing now? What's missing is that once we do this, right, we could take the display and just put it right after. Now, actually, would we want to? That would actually be a good challenge question. But I want you to just think through this. Would it be a good idea here? Okay. Would that be a good idea? Why or why not? Okay, I know you can run the code, but I want you to think through it. Is putting display output inside the event listener a good idea? So I just want you to think about it because, okay, so I'm going to pause right there. I want you to go write it before. And I suggest don't look at the code yet. Just think about what would happen. And part of the reason I say don't go look at code is that part of this is just learning the ideas and concepts around the event listener and the difference between what the event listener and what the display, because this is going to iterate over all the inputs, right? Well, how many times are you inputting in the event listener? Okay, let's go see, because I think it's worth looking at. Okay, now I'm actually going to give it some good data. Now, we actually haven't captured household and all that, so we'll have to think about that as well, right? Do small. Okay, so in here, do I have... Yeah, I do have it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. But in here, I'm just going to jump over that because I know at that point, if I go look at the CPF data, what's in it, right? There's house. Right? So maybe that's our next challenge, is how do we then update this to also include the first name and last name? So now if we run this, right, what's going to happen? It's going to iterate over, and let's just go ahead and I'm going to let this run. Good, right? So it did do that, which is awesome. It did the one. Now, we need to talk about clearing these up, because doesn't it make sense? And by the way, this is done running. Doesn't it make sense that once you get input from the user, you'd want to do a clear these fields? There's a simple way to do that here. You could do form dot reset. I think that's all it is. Reset. I think it's reset. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, I had it right. My editor just wasn't liking it. So we put form.reset right there after the display, right? Would that make sense? Okay, so now we know and by the way, when live server refreshes, you get a clean inputs, because on the reload on the live server, that's what it does. Okay, so now we'll go ahead. Now we're going to run this. Again, I'm just going to let this run. Oh, I don't have, yeah, I do have. Why don't I see them? I don't see my controls because I don't have enough. I'm going to jump over that. I'm going to jump over that. Cool, that's there, right? Now we're done. But what happens if I do it again? Right? Okay. What's your guess? That's kind of what I was asking you. Like, what was your guess, right? We're going to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. We're going to jump over. Again, I know that code works. I don't need to do it. I'm going to display the output, right? Oh, look what happened. We got the first entry because it was 14, and then we got the second one. Okay. Okay, so in your notes, explain, or just why do you think we got duplicates. Okay, do that. Cool. Put that in your notes. And the answer is relatively easy, actually. It's because when we run this on the second submission, what we rendered to the HTML was already there. So it didn't get rid of it. So how could we get rid of? There's kind of an easy way here. We could actually take this, because this is only available to us now inside there. So we could take this, put it up in here, because it's here. We could do output. Now if I do that, then I got to make sure what? If I do that, then anywhere I use that, right? I also have to put, oh yeah, this would be a perfect situation for multi-line. Oh, dang it, my keyboard. Anyway, that's also a perfect time to, but I'm just going to put output, right? There we go. I'd also need to make sure I've done that, because I'm going to break it, my code. And all that does is it makes it work. But how do I use this reference now to make sure nothing, right, before I do it, I would do output dot enter HTML equals, and by doing that it clears it before it displays it. It's not the most beautiful code in the world, I have to admit, but let's see if it actually does its job, right? So I bet you see the next code challenge already coming, right? Okay. Let's let it run. Let's go ahead and let it run. Jump over that. Jump over that. We know it outputs. That's awesome. Resets the form. That's awesome. And now it's ready for another input, right? So now let's say 6, and now let's say medium, right? Okay, jump over that, jump over that. Ah, right there, if you didn't see it. And by the way, this is why it's great to use DevTools. Okay. Ah, and now we don't have duplicate data. Okay. But we can reset the form. Right, we can, oh God, just go ahead and reset the form, and we're at least at this point done. Okay, so that's the, so in this case, what did I give you? I think I gave you my working code. Right, so I'll give you a commit for this one, and then we'll continue on because there's more we need to do.